Hi everyone, my name is Kate Theobald. I work in the Office of Undergraduate Research at the University of West Georgia. Thank you for joining me for this personal statement and scholarship essay writing workshop. I hope that you find the tips and writing exercises in this workshop helpful to you as you're applying for national scholarships and fellowships or any other opportunity that you may have coming up that needs writing within the application. So first I want to talk about writing a personal statement. At some point in the next few years, whether that's while you're still an undergrad or afterwards as you're searching for jobs or applying to graduate school, you will be asked to write a personal statement along with an application. This is something that's very common and is very likely coming for you soon in some kind of application process. So maybe you're applying for admission to a specific undergraduate program, or you're applying to graduate school or professional school like med school or law school, a prestigious scholarship, or something else that is competitive and of equal importance to you. Your personal statement is a narrative that describes important aspects of you that haven't yet been detailed in your application already. So when you're writing a personal statement, it's important to make sure that you're tailoring it to the specific opportunity for which you're applying. You can have kind of a draft that you edit for different things, but make sure that you are updating it for each opportunity that you're applying for so that you can make sure you're not writing about things that have already been addressed within the application questions. Your personal statement should tell who you are, what your passions are, and why your passions and experiences align with the specific program that you're applying to, and basically why you're a good fit for that program. So again, that's why it's really important that you update your personal statement for each opportunity for which you're applying, because you'll want to address within that personal statement why the thing that you're applying for is really a good fit for you, why you're a good fit for that particular program. A strong personal statement will set your application apart from the many others that reviewers are reading. Typically, most people who apply for something are qualified to apply. For example, if you're applying to medical school, probably the vast majority of applicants have high GPAs, they have undergraduate research, they've been involved in things, they have all those things that med schools are looking for. And they're looking for something else to really make your application stand out, to show that you'd be a good fit for their program, and often that's going to come across in the personal statement. Now, you may not be applying for med school specifically, but that advice kind of holds true across whatever it is that you're applying for. Then most people are qualified, and it's the personal statement that will set your application apart. Keep in mind that, like your resume, your personal statement is a living document, so it will change and grow as you do. Just as you might update your resume for specific things that you're applying to, you'll update your personal statement, and as you gain experience in new areas, you'll add that in as well. So just like some things fall off of your resume after a while and you add new things in, your personal statement functions in the same way. So it is really a living document. Often when you're asked for a personal statement, you're not given a lot of this direction. You're just told, please provide a personal statement. So that's why I think it's really important for you to have these details as you start writing. So I do want to do some personal statement pre-writing exercises today. One of the goals for this workshop is that you come away with something tangible that you can use as you start really drafting your personal statement. So take out a sheet of paper or open up a blank document on your computer. I really believe in the power of handwriting, and so I do suggest that you do this on paper. But if that's just not your style, go ahead and open up a blank document. You can certainly type it. I want you to jot down answers to the questions that are going to come up on the screen in a moment. So when each question comes up, pause the video, take some time to really answer the questions, and then push play on the video to come back for the next question. And through this, don't worry about your grammar or your spelling or complete sentences or anything like that. Right now, we're concentrating on ideas. All of those other things can be fixed as you proofread and edit. So here's our first question. Describe the world that you come from. So your family, your community, your school, your experiences. what is your background, and tell how that world has shaped your dreams and aspirations. So this is the part of the personal statement where you'll focus on what has already happened in your life to lead you to this point that you're applying for this thing. So go ahead, pause the video, and take a few minutes to jot down all the ideas that you can think of. Okay, hopefully you really did pause the video and you're ready to move on to our next question. Number 2 is to think of something you want to apply for in the future. Now, is there a specific story you can tell that gives insight into why you want to apply for this? It's really important in your personal statement that you're not just focusing on broad ideas, but you throw in an anecdote or the story of a specific moment or a specific thing that happened that relates to why you're applying for the opportunity that you're applying for. That can really help your reader to get to know you. So as you're going through this pre-writing exercise, take some time to think about a specific story that gives that insight into why you want to apply for the thing that you're thinking of right now. So go ahead and pause the video and take a few minutes to write that down. Okay, welcome back. I hope you have a great answer to number 2, or at least some ideas jotted down. Let's move on to the next question. So our last question for this pre-writing exercise is, what are you doing now, or what have you done in the past that has prepared you for the program you're applying to? So think about activities you've been part of, clubs or organizations. Maybe you went on a study abroad, had an internship experience, an experience within a specific course, an undergraduate research project, whatever that might be for you. What are you doing now, and what have you done in the past? Not too far past. Let's not go as far back as high school. Let's keep this with university experiences. So what have you done that has prepared you for the program you're applying to? So take a few minutes to write that. Go ahead and pause the video. All right, welcome back. Now that you have some answers to these things and you kind of can see how all 3 of your answers to these questions fit into a personal statement, let's move on to actually drafting a personal statement. Now, something that you draft in the course of a 15 to 20 minute workshop is certainly not going to be polished enough to submit anywhere, but I want you to have a start, something that you can actually edit as you're completing an application and as you're really digging into writing your personal statement. So you have your pre-writing exercises, get out a clean sheet of paper, and at the very top, write what it is that you're applying for. Maybe you're applying for a Fulbright, maybe you're applying for admission to a graduate program, whatever that is, write what it is that you're applying for right at the top. So you choose this. And then I want you to write a 1-page draft of your personal statement. So the goal here is that, again, you're going to pause the video in just a minute and you're going to write until that page is completely filled. Use your pre-writing exercises. Again, don't focus on grammar or spelling or any of that. Get ideas down until you have a full sheet of ideas, 1 page of things written down. And keep in mind that the program you're applying to will get a lot of personal statements. So how does yours stand out and let your readers get to know you? Use some of those questions from your pre-writing. Make sure that you're avoiding cliches like a medical student who wants to help people or a student going to study abroad who wants to broaden their horizons. Be more specific than that. You want to consider your past, but you also want to look to your future as well. How will being part of this program impact the rest of your life? So go ahead and pause the video and take a few minutes to write. Okay, I'm really hoping that you actually took the time to pause the video, get some things written down. Let's move on to scholarship essay writing. We just talked about personal statements, and that's when you're asked for a very broad, just, hey, include a personal statement with your application, and you're not given a specific prompt. But sometimes you are given a specific prompt, and so I'm calling that a scholarship essay here, even if it's not for a specific scholarship. Everything that we're going to talk about starting in this portion of the webinar is for specific essays when you are given a prompt with the application. And so the first thing you need to do is read and understand the prompt. If you're not sure what the prompt is really asking for, ask questions. There's likely a contact at whatever it is you're applying to, or you can reach out to an advisor. So if you're applying for a national scholarship or fellowship on our campus, that's me. If you're applying for graduate school, you might reach out to a faculty member in your major currently and get their take on what they think the prompt is asking for if the prompt is confusing. Also, you want to actually look at the prompt, print it out, write on it, underline the specific questions or parts of the essay that you need to be sure to address. So if a prompt is asking you to address 3 different things and you write a fabulous essay that only addresses one of them, you've really not done what you're supposed to. You've not addressed the prompt and your application likely will not be chosen. So make sure that you know exactly what it is you're being asked to write, and that once you've written, you can go back, look at what you've underlined, and use that as a checklist to make sure you've hit everything that the application essay is asking you for. And just make sure also that you take note of any instructions or limitations like a required font or a word count or page count, anything like that. You want to make sure that everything's formatted correctly the way that the application is asking for it. Once you really understand the prompt and you know what you're going to write, it's time to start drafting. I'm going to suggest that you actually go through the writing process. Now, I know that you know what the writing process is. You have talked about this writing process all through school, middle school, high school, college. It hasn't changed. But chances are most students don't actually go through the entire writing process as they're writing essays for class. But this is an opportunity for you to really go through the writing process, and it's essential that you do, because chances are you're writing an essay or a personal statement. This applies to personal statements as well. You're writing for something that is competitive and that you really want. So it's worth going through the whole writing process to craft the best essay that you possibly can. So first, pre-write. Get all of your ideas onto paper once you've read that prompt. You can do a timed pre-write. I really like these, where you set a timer for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever feels appropriate to you, and you don't stop writing until that timer goes off. You just fill as many pages as you can with all the ideas that you have. And of course, you can go back and organize that later. Some people are a little bit more visual and want to do one of those mind maps where you have like a central idea and a circle in the middle and sort of spider webs out from there with different ideas that shoot off the original. Hopefully you know what I'm talking about. You've done these before. You can kind of picture that. So whatever your pre-writing process is, or whatever makes most sense to you, actually do that. And then use that to craft an outline. So at this step, while you're outlining, go back and look at the questions that you underlined in the prompt and make sure that you have a plan to address them all. If you're writing from an outline and you actually have a plan to address everything in the prompt, you're ensuring that you really will address all of those things and that you'll have an essay that is exactly what your application is asking for. From that outline, write your rough draft. I find that it's so much easier to write a rough draft once I have an outline. The outline is the hardest part. And then go through, once you have that draft, and proofread and polish to create a very solid first draft. Notice that at the end of this process, what you come out with is a solid first draft. It's not what you're ready to submit with your application. To get to that point, we need to look at some things to do after you've written. So first, ask someone else to look at your draft and give you constructive feedback. If you're applying for a national scholarship or fellowship, that could be me as your advisor. You can take it to the Writing Center. Our University Writing Center at West Georgia will look at scholarship applications and grad school applications, the essay part, the written part of that, so you can take it there. Or you may take it to a faculty member who you trust, maybe someone who's advising you for whatever it is that you're applying for, or just someone that you've taken classes with and you really value their opinion and their feedback. Once you get that feedback, use it to write a second draft. Sometimes when we go to a second draft, we edit things out. So once you've written that next draft, do go back to your checklist with your prompt, to everything that you underlined, and make sure that you're still addressing everything the prompt asked for and that you're still staying on topic. And as you go into that second draft, don't be afraid to make substantial changes. Often students are hoping that people will simply proofread for them and tell them where to add a comma or change a word here or there. But that's not what real editing is. When you're editing your work, you can make substantial changes. So delete what doesn't work, even if that's full paragraphs or the majority of your essay, and add in what will work. It is okay to make big changes between your first and second draft, or between your second draft and any drafts that follow. Once you've done that, ask that same person to look at your second draft, get their feedback again, see if it's better in their opinion, and then find someone else with fresh eyes who didn't see your first draft and see that transition to look at what you have now and see what they think, get their constructive feedback. At some point, there are too many eyes on your essay and you have to go with what you feel is best to write. So you don't necessarily want to involve too many people, but I find that getting a second person to look at essays is really helpful. And just remember that this is a process. You can repeat as many times as you need to. I know for Fulbright, for example, they recommend that you go through 6 to 12 drafts with your Fulbright program advisor. So you may really be revising, making changes, going through multiple drafts, and that's okay, because if whatever you're applying for is something you really want and it's competitive, you want to take the time to go through this process to ensure that you have the best essay possible to submit. I want to give you some tips as you're writing. This applies to both personal statements and scholarship essays. First, avoid cliche statements. We already talked about that doctor who wants to help people, or the student who's studying abroad who wants to broaden her horizons. So you want to avoid cliche concepts, but also cliche statements like the grass is greener on the other side, things like that. You want to make sure you're using your own words and you're really saying what you mean. Go through, once you've written a draft, and look at your verbs. You don't want too many weak verbs or those to be verbs. If it says I am, this is, he is, over and over, it's going to read as a really dull essay. So make sure you're using some strong, interesting verbs. Don't use passive voice when you can help it. For example, you wouldn't want to say, the letter was written by my professor. It's much stronger to say my professor wrote the letter. Okay. Make sure that you're being specific and personal. You want your readers to get to know you. It's another point a little bit later on. And they'll get to know you as you're being very specific and personal in your essay. Keep in mind, especially with personal statements, but even essays as well, that this is your chance to tell your readers anything important that didn't come across in your application already. So anything that you feel wasn't addressed in those application questions, your personal statement could be a good place for it. For essays, do make sure that you're sticking to the topic or prompt. There may be something that you so want to tell your readers that you don't feel like came across in your application, but if it really deviates from the prompt, it's probably not appropriate. Your reader already knows what you're applying for, so you don't need to spend too much time in an introduction. This can be really hard because it's a different type of writing than what we're used to for classes. You don't have to start off with, "Hi, my name's Kate, and I'm applying to the graduate program," and blah, blah, blah. They know that, so you can kind of jump right into your essay. And I'm going to come back to this last point of letting your readers get to know you. You want to include a story or an anecdote, something that shares about a specific moment. You want to give examples from your personal life. Your reader should leave your essay not only feeling like you're qualified for whatever opportunity it is that you're applying to, but they should be rooting for you. So not just, yeah, okay, I think that he's a good fit for this program. I'll put his essay in the maybe stack and we'll, make decisions. But wow, this student absolutely has to be chosen for this opportunity. That should be your reader's reaction at the end of it. Okay, so that's the presentation. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. My email is kate@westga.edu. I look forward to helping you as you're applying for national scholarships and fellowships or graduate school, whatever it is that you have coming next that you're working on an application for. And of course, any questions from the presentation today, feel free to shoot those to me in an email. Thanks.